The College Baseball Experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and available in 40 states. Head over to cut.com, that's KUTT.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus when you sign up. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Champs. Run your own March Madness pool and enter Champs free bracket contest for a chance to win $1,000. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs to enter today. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And always, let it ride. All right, already welcome back to a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. And yes, this is a slightly different voice. I mean, I'm still Noah Bieniek. You can follow me at NoahB77_, but filling in for Colby Dant here on today's episode of College Baseball Experience is my good friend Will Mossa from Overdue Sports. Will, you were on the ACC preview that we had earlier this season. We might have the biggest regular season series in all of the ACC regular season this year, this weekend, opening weekend of conference play. What's going on, my man?
Not a whole lot, man. I've had this series circled since before opening day. As soon as I saw it on the schedule that this was how we're opening up ACC play, I've put a big old circle around it because my boys are playing in it.
Yeah, for sure. We're both very high on the two teams that we'll be talking about in this one for sure. I've personally picked out a couple of, we're going to talk 11 Friday games / weekend series here on this show. I'm currently on a little bit of a family vacation in the northeast part of Florida here. And Colby is also doing 3 or 4 different podcasts or radio hits for college basketball. I mean, it is March Madness season. Conference tournaments are in full swing right now. And we're in the busy part of, just my work with SGPN. So we needed to call in for an extra hand, extra assistance. I'm glad you were able to help us out here, Will, because let me say, there are not many. Also, you're in the Great Lakes area, just like I usually am. Shout out to you. This college baseball game is growing, and not many people are betting on it. And another one from the Great Lakes area, there's just not many. So kudos to you. And I know you're a former college baseball player, but just your interest in college baseball, because I feel like a lot of our listeners, our demographic is Southeastern. So kind of just for the listeners, take us through kind of what got you into this, what you're interested in, and whatnot.
Yeah, it started at a pretty young age for me for college baseball. I'm pretty sure I came out of the womb holding a ball and gloves, so yeah. Baseball has always been a huge part of my life. But right around the age of like 13 or 14, I had a good family friend whose brother played at TCU. And so that was kind of like my intro to college baseball. It was in those Bregman years when Bregman was at LSU. So it was right in that range. And TCU was in the they won the Big 12 one of those years. So I got to go see the tournament out in Oklahoma 2 years in a row while he was still there. So that was kind of like my intro into it. And then ever since then, like I've loved it ever since. And so I've always been a huge fan, and college baseball coverage was really the reason why I started Overdue Sports in the first place, because I just felt like there wasn't enough college baseball coverage out there.
100%. Amen. Yeah, pretty much somewhat similar to myself. Honestly, like I think you can attest to it too, because Wisconsin doesn't even have a college baseball team, but like college baseball fandom just is almost unheard of where we come from. And I always kind of just like to hear how people get into the game, because for me, I truly dove in around 2019 when Eric Bakich and Michigan went, really far in the tournament. So that's kind of my origin story. Of course, I've followed a little bit on the national stage before then. I was a huge fan of Carson Fulmer and the Vandy boys during that time, and also Louisville. I liked the two Northern programs, but still, so interesting to me. I'm ready to dive into this week's college baseball action. Before we do, I need to tell you a little bit about Merch Madness with SGPN right now. You can get 15% off of everything in the sportsgamblingpodcast.com store with the promo code MADNESS. Mention it, just any merchandise that you are interested in over on sportsgamblingpodcast.com. 15% off all of the Dundee-isms line that we have out currently. There's also court storming merch that we just put out that you can get your hands on. And also, we just put out a new prop on Cut. They're a peer-to-peer social betting platform. It's U.S.-based, available in 40 states. You can currently bet on the over or under 1.5 buzzer beaters made in the final week of conference tournaments. So beginning next Monday through Sunday, the final week of conference tournaments, whether there's going to be over or under 1.5 game-ending shots. Cut offers lower vig and fully customizable odds on bets, so you can create your own bets just like we just did over on Cut. Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anyone down for money. And also, you can participate in group chats and betting leaderboards that we currently have with SGPN and the college experience over on Cut. And you can win cash back every single time you play against your friends over on Cut. So download Cut today in the App Store and over at cut.com. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. You can play with their pick'em game. You can choose your favorite players that will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. You can also make rivals picks, which pits 2 players against each other. Personally, I was writing daily articles over on sportsgamblingpodcast.com for college basketball from December until March. Cannabis Capper has taken that article over from me, and he is running wild with it. He's doing very well. So shout out to him. Let's jump into this week's college baseball slate. Like I said, we've picked out 11 of the best games that we have either found pretty good angles on or just have good opinions on, or their top 25 matchups that are going to be, in every household, hopefully, if you're not watching this weekend's college basketball action. We're going to start it off in the ACC. The ACC regular season is kicking off. It's Boston College against NC State. This one's at 3 Eastern at the Doak. The Eagles at NC State. BC, they have an 823 team OPS. They're averaging 8.2 runs a game. NC State, a little bit better offensively, 1019 team OPS, 10.1 runs per game. Will, how did you divvy up the two teams here?
Yeah, this series was one that piqued my interest. In the ACC preview show, I was higher on Boston College than I think a handful of people, and a little bit lower on NC State. To me, this series is also has a wrinkle thrown into it just because we have a doubleheader tomorrow and the one game on Sunday. Yeah. And so I think it gives you a little bit of a different angle when you're kind of breaking this down, just because the bullpen usage on Friday is going to be a lot more. Game one, I love Boston College. We should see John West on the bump for them. He's an experienced starter for them. He's got a 3.21 ERA, throwing to a 2.55 batting average against. And my thing here is that I think that he can give them 6 strong in game one. and they can pass it onto the bullpen. And if they get it to Tyler Mudd in the back end, who has one save already on the year, he's thrown to a 133 batting average against with 17 Ks and 4 walks, I think it's going to be nails. NC State to me has been a little bit inconsistent in these series. We saw them drop one to Hawaii, and they just have struggled in 1 to 2 games in every series so far. And while the strength of schedule for both teams isn't really there, I think Boston College can catch them. So I'm really targeting Boston College, definitely in game 1. You have to think about the bounce back angle on a doubleheader, especially in the college game. But I really like Boston College in this first game.
So the odds, they were out and then disappeared with the news of weather. I'm personally expecting NC State to be a favorite in the mid 100s here. So I would probably say Boston College plus 120, plus 130. And you would say, yes, I like Boston College. Are you going to be, I'm not trying to pressure you or push you into a bet here. But would you have money on this game?
Yeah, 100%. Game 1, I would lock up Boston College as long as I would say if they're above the plus 120 line, I would take it. I think anything less is starting to get a little bit dicey, but if they're a plus 120 or more, I think they have a really good chance to take game 1 in this series.
Cool. So NC State is tossing Logan Whitaker in that first game on Friday. He's made 3 appearances. He was battling a little bit of a preseason injury from my knowledge. He's thrown 12.2 innings so far this season, 8 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's got a 4.88 Sierra 4.26 ERA. So he's been touched up quite a bit to begin the year. And like Will mentioned, they have not faced the greatest competition. I'm not extremely high on Boston College, but also I don't think there's really any meat to the bone with NC State so far this season. I would look to take Boston College in game 1, but I like the Wolfpack at home in games 2 and game 3. Personally, I think NC State's got one of the best game 3 starters in the ACC in Dom Fritton, and they're throwing Sam Heifel in game 2 on Friday. So I personally think they win games 2 and game 3. But if you're looking to take the Eagles, I'd take them in game 1 with John West. He's one of the most experienced starting pitchers in the ACC. I think it's a solid look. Game 2 that we're going to touch on here is also in the first weekend of ACC play, 4 Eastern. The Pitt Panthers are plus 160 on their money line. They traveled to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to play the Tar Heels, minus 210 on the money line. This is at Boshamer Stadium here. North Carolina, they have a 972 team OPS. They're averaging just over 10 runs a game. And Pitt has a 985 team OPS, averaging 10.4 runs per game. And they played actually pretty solid competition so far this year. This Pitt team, I like to think that I have a pretty good, kind of pulse on how the Panthers are going to look. Of course, I went to college in Pitt. I've scrimmaged Pitt in my career and did not expect this. But also North Carolina, they have a 3-game series against East Carolina under their belts. I mean, this is also a team that's no joke. They're hosting this series. We're no longer getting these Pitt I was saying on the last 2 weekends here, sell high on Pitt. I hit with Maryland against Pitt. And then I said it once again when they were playing Oklahoma. And then all of a sudden they 10-run rule Oklahoma here. How are you on the plus money with Pitt, or are you taking North Carolina at home here?
This series is odd to me. Pitt was one of the scrappiest teams in the ACC last year. They actually only got swept 1 time in conference play, and it was to Louisville. So they took a game from everybody in the conference.
And Louisville was like 14th in the conference, didn't even make the conference tournament.
Yes, and I expect this series to go the exact same way that they played last year. I think Pitt is a little bit more talented than last year. Game 1 is not a game that I'm going to want to target Pitt at all with Folger Bose on the mound for North Carolina. He's one of the better starters in the ACC. He's been really good. He went toe-to-toe with Trey Savage last weekend.
Yeah.
and really, I mean, took it to an East Carolina lineup that I think is, and sure, they ran out of some innings in that game, but that lineup is a lot better than what Pitt has. And so game one, I would not touch. I would target game 2 or 3 if you really want to take a stab at it. I don't know that it's something that I would play. But if Carolina goes up 2-0 in the series, I would debate taking Pitt in game 3 is the way that I would play it.
Yeah. So for those that are looking, I'm not texting. I swear. I usually hate when people are on their phones on stream, but I'm currently not in my normal setup. Like I said, originally on vacation here in Northeast Florida. So I'm doing most of my research on my phone. Looked up on North Carolina's website to see if the weekend rotations are out for both teams. We have the Friday projected matchup, and then Saturday and Sunday, both teams have TBA. My thing with Pitt is the thing that I can't get behind with the Panthers is their ace right now was a closer in the A-10 last year for Rhode Island, who wasn't even very good. Ryan Andrade. So he's got an 8.44 ERA so far this season with a 5.14 SIERA. He's got 11 strikeouts, 10 walks, and 10.2 innings. He's a Friday night starter in the ACC. That, I mean, if that's the top guy in your staff, I can't buy into it. I know this team's been solid. I know they've only got one loss on the year. I still I'm gonna sell stock in Pitt, knowing that they're still, I mean, looked upon as, you know, a one-loss team right now. I think North Carolina is a solid parlay piece. I agree with Will in saying that Pitt can be feisty. And being that I have no idea who's pitching Saturday or Sunday, there could be a pitching matchup in here that I like a little bit better than Folger Bose against Ryan Andrade. But yeah, I like the Tar Heels here on Friday. Anything else that you want to add on the series before we move on?
No, not really. I think North Carolina's offense is just far too good. Vance Honeycutt is really starting to put it together. I said it preseason, just throw last year out the window for him, and he's really starting to heat up. I mean, he's just crushing baseballs. I think game 1 might be a bit of a bloodbath, to be honest, which might actually bode well if Carolina does take the first 2, because you might see a steeper line for Pitt. So you might end up getting Pitt at plus almost like probably 250 on Sunday. So it might be a good spot to target on Sunday if you're really feeling it, but I think Carolina's going to take it to them.
Good point. Yeah, I would look to even lay maybe a run line too tomorrow if it's not too out there. Personally, I'm a little bit cautious with the favorites on the run line. I prefer money line parlay, but here North Carolina -1.5. -2.5 wouldn't even be a terrible look. We move on to one of the couple of Big Ten Sun Belt matchups that we have in our card for the show that we're going to talk about today. At 5:00 p.m., this is also part of the 11.7 Pick'em contest this year. So we're going to pick the winner of the series, which Will, we mentioned that, you know, let's just have some fun. Let's pick the winner of every series. I forgot to ask you for the first 2. I'm on NC State against BC. Who are you on in that one?
I'm on BC to take that one.
I like it. That's a bold prediction. And then we both said North Carolina. We're kind of alluded to it, correct?
Yeah.
All righty. So 11.7 here. Here we go. I'll get one of your survivor picks at the end because with the 6 series, you choose the most confident one that you have, and then we'll give it out as survivor. You'll fill in for Colby this week. He has survived up until this point, so no pressure. 5 Eastern, Troy at Indiana. This is at Kauffman Field here in Bloomington. The Trojans' offense has been legit so far this season. 10-19 team OPS, averaging 9.3 runs a game. Indiana, 891 team OPS, 725 runs per game, but the pitching staff has been solid too. Troy, one of the best aces in the Sun Belt here going on Friday, and Grayson Stewart. How did you split the 2 teams here, Will?
I've been really high on Indiana since the beginning since that first weekend in Coastal. They were really impressive to me. Obviously, Devin Taylor was an All-American last year, so expecting nothing less than him. He's already got a 408 batting average. Tyler Kearney, their shortstop, has been one of my favorite players to watch this year. He's really done it all this year. He's been ridiculous defensively. He's hit the ball really well. Their pitching has been the surprising piece to me. It's been really good across the board. I like Indiana here. I think Troy's offense is really solid. Will Butcher has been one of the better hitters in Division I baseball this year. And they've got a handful of guys that can really swing it, but I think Indiana's pitching is going to do it. We saw them play Alabama really tough in the midweek, and granted, Alabama has not shown out well in midweek so far this year, but I think Troy's going to give them a run for their money in this series. I definitely like Indiana to take the series, but there might be some value in Troy.
Yeah, so I'm currently looking. Did you see if Reisdorf is starting for Indiana this? So, by the way,
he has been their Friday guy, which would concern me.
Yeah, I'm a Connor Foley guy. I believe he's their better starting pitcher, their top option in this weekend rotation. So on Indiana's website, the weekend baseball series between Indiana and Troy has been altered due to forecasted weather in the area. The two teams will play the weekend opener on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. So that explains why we couldn't find odds. Within the past hour, they've come off the board. This is also pretty funny in the write-up here. The first game on Sunday is going to begin at 11 a.m. The second game 30 minutes after the conclusion of the first contest. But due to a men's basketball game at Shyman Schote Assembly Hall on Sunday, parking will be limited for baseball and softball. Just absolutely hilarious there. I'm checking out Troy's website real quick before we move on to this game, because personally, if it's Grayson Stewart against Reisdorf, I would love a Troy money line. They would probably open as the dog against Indiana. Troy has not done I take that back. Here we go. Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3, all TBA. Oh, gotta love college baseball. Yeah, so that's my look here. I would look to back Grayson Stewart if he's not facing Connor Foley in this series in Game 1. We move on to, we don't know pitchers for any of the games. That's just classic college baseball. How would you determine who wins 2 or 3, or is there a sweep happening here? Where are you going?
Definitely not a sweep. I'm thinking Indiana wins this series 2-1. Foley, and if Foley is going Game 1, I think it's going to be a war. But I think Indiana is going to take 2. I just think that offense, I just think they're the more well-rounded team across the board. The bullpen has been solid. And even though Reisdorf hasn't been great in his first 2 starts, or his last 2 starts, he actually threw the ball really well against Duke in Game 1 of the season. So I'm a little bit surprised that he has struggled the last 2 weekends. So I think there might be some positive regression due for him. He's got good stuff. He's got good movement on his fastball. Definitely not an easy at-bat. But I think it's Indiana to take 2.
Awesome. I'm going the other way. I'm going with Troy. I think this offense is going to come to play here in Indiana. And the pitching staff, we'll find out. But I'm pretty high on this Troy squad. I think they're a sleeper to get to Omaha this year. That's one of my favorite mid-major little shots. We gotta talk about the marquee matchup of the weekend. It is Duke and Wake Forest here at the couch in North Carolina. Wake Forest is -190, Duke +154 on the money line. Crazy. We do have slated starting pitchers here, and for this entire series, we pretty much know how the lineup's going to be. Both on the mound and at the plate for both teams. Duke is probably most likely trotting out Jonathan Santucci here. He's a junior left-handed pitcher, 3-0 with a 0 ERA. His SIERA is 123. He's got 31 strikeouts with only 7 walks in 17 innings in his 3 starts. Wake Forest, Josh Hartle is their ace. He is not been super dominant so far, and they haven't played amazing competition either. He is also a junior left-handed pitcher. I mean, we're talking about 2 of the top 4 left-handed pitchers in this year's MLB draft. Hartle's 3-0 with a 2.04 ERA, 2.08 SIERA. The FIP, though, not taking into account balls in play that don't go over the fence, his FIP's 536. So he's been hit hard, specifically fly balls. 17 strikeouts, 3 walks, 17.2 innings pitched for Hartle. Duke offensively been super surprising. I mean, when Will and I were previewing the ACC with Colby, the Devils' offense was the question mark of this team. So far, it's been the strength of the team in the first 3 weeks of the season. 1142 team OPS. They're averaging 10.75 runs per game. Wake Forest, they've kind of looked like a pedestrian Wake Forest as of late. 960 team OPS, 9.25 runs per game. That's not as much. That's not the Wake Forest offense that we've been used to over the last 4 years that we've been accustomed to. Will, Wake Forest minus 190. I'm not personally going to touch that price at all this weekend. How say you?
Not a chance. Duke is my favorite play on the board tomorrow.
I like it. Plus 154, if you can get that currently. We've seen it go down at other places. You got to jump on the plus 154 right now.
100%. I said this pre-show. As of right now, Jonathan Santucci is the best pitcher in college baseball. And he doesn't have the arm talent of Burns. He doesn't throw the 104 like Brody Brecht, but he is the best pitcher in college baseball right now. He doesn't miss a lot. I think Wake Forest's offense is just going to struggle against him. I don't think they're going to get anything rolling. In the bullpen for Duke, which I also mentioned preseason, I think they have the deepest pitching staff in the ACC. And they haven't even used Fran Oschel yet, who is a preseason All-American. He's only thrown 1 inning this year. So you still got him. And Charlie Bielenson, who's been their closer, and he's got 5 saves, which leads Division I baseball. And he throws this slider that just disappears on hitters. And, I think Santucci's we're at the point where you're going to start seeing starters extended off of pitch counts and inning counts. And I think Santucci's going to give them 6 or 7 strong, and they're going to pass the ball along. And I think Duke is going to take game 1. The offense, to me, I think is just too good. Ben Miller has been a really big surprise. He transferred in this year, and he's absolutely crushing the ball. Devin Obie. I mean, Alex Stone was one of my guys coming into the season, and he's like their 8th best hitter right now.
Yeah, so, Will, real quick, your camera's lagging behind your microphone by a second, but we heard everything that you said. So, real quick, jump out of the StreamYard, jump back in. I'll talk a little bit on Wake Forest. I'll hit an ad if you're not back, and then we'll finish this recap real quick. For me personally, you know what? I'm going to do the ad first, and then we'll get right back into this game. College Baseball Experience is brought to you by Manscaped. This episode, St. Patrick's Day is Shamrock Shavers. This year, you don't just chase the rainbows. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders in the below-the-belt kilt care. Say goodbye to your Clover Forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and let your confidence shine bright. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com and use SGPN. That's your code, SGPN, for 20% off plus free shipping. The trimmer comes with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, one for a classic trim and a new foil blade to go smooth over wherever your heart desires. And its compact case makes it an ideal companion ready for any adventure or last-minute plans. Get 20% off and free shipping with code SGPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code SGPN at manscaped.com. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your little hairy leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped. Champs is also hosting a free March Madness bracket contest for anybody willing to enter. You can win up to $1,000. Plus, if you host your own March Madness pool on Champs, you'll get an extra free entry into the bracket contest. Tiebreakers are determined by whoever enters first, so make sure you register now and don't miss out. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. Win bigger by betting smarter this NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NBA and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into the Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching the Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, we're back. Will Mossa is back. He's joined again on YouTube. I just hit the second ad, so I didn't touch again on Wake Forest. Dude, you didn't miss anything. So going into my second point here, I'm going to now attack this thing series long this entire weekend. Personally, I'm having a hard time deciding whether I should take Duke or Wake Forest in the 11.7 pick'em contest. One, because it's a little bit of a difference. Some people, they'll go specifically off of, how teams recruit technically, the talent they've got on their teams, or they go on performance. If you're looking at performance, Duke has played one of the best schedules in the country so far this season, and they've looked great. Wake Forest, on the other hand, brought in one of the most talented transfer classes in this year's portal, and they just haven't been put to the test yet. And maybe they were just in cruise control against some of the competition they played so far. Personally, I think I have to take Wake Forest. They're the home team in the series. I think that matters a ton. Second off, this pitching staff it's used to the mini ballpark that is the couch, that is the launch pad, that is 300 feet down the lines. The Demon Deacons offense, they have not come around. I'm fully aware. But I also think that the Duke, this season, it's been solid, the Wake Forest pitching staff. And they're used to pitching in the shoebox, and it's very impressive, being one of the best pitching staffs in the country the last 2 years. Duke is not used to this. I think this series is very, very close, splitting needles, with the two teams. I'm going to give the edge to the Demon Deacons. I say go out and beat them, Duke. And you know what? If we'll see how the pool goes. I would hate to be on the side that takes like 80% Wake Forest, but I really hope that it's more of a 60-40, 50-50 split, because that's what Duke deserves. They've played outstanding so far this year. Will, for the series, who do you think's winning it?
I will be on the Duke Blue Devils to take the series.
Awesome. All right. Anything else that you want to add before we skip to the next one?
No, I think we nailed it. I just think Duke's pitching staff, I just think, is going to hold up better over the course of the weekend.
All righty. So the next series is actually, usually I don't do this, but I created the lineup of games that we were going to talk about on this show prior to the odds coming out. And I was eyeing this team, expecting them to be in like the plus 200s, plus 300s, if I was really lucky on the price. We're getting Austin Peay at plus 400 at Plainsman Park against Auburn, who's minus 620 on the money line here. Chase Alsop has been the Friday night starter for the Tigers. I'm not extremely high on Alsop. However, I am very high on this Austin Peay team. One, I like their stud in Lyle Miller Green. I drafted him on our fantasy team that we did a preseason show on with a lot of the guys in the gambling community for college baseball. But two, I think that this Austin Peay team has flown under the radar in the talent department for sure. And so far they've swept a midweek series with Mississippi State to show for it. And they've looked pretty dang solid in most of the other matchups so far this year. Austin Peay, 1026 team OPS, 930, averaging 9.3 runs a game. Auburn, 998 team OPS, averaging 9 runs a game. This one's going to be a tight series for the weekend, I believe. Will, how say you?
Yeah, I mean, I just have to go with Auburn. I'm pretty high on them right now. The offense has just been outstanding, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm not super high on Alsup right now. So I definitely think there's value on Austin Peay. I believe the line was at -600 for Auburn. And so it's not something that I would play. I think Auburn has a good chance to sweep this series, but that isn't to say that there isn't a chance that Austin Peay takes one of these. They've definitely got enough talent to steal one of these games.
Yeah. So speaking to Will's, I guess, confidence with Auburn, I would look for run lines throughout the entire weekend. Sure, maybe Auburn, being the SEC team, they show up and they take the weekend series. If you want to be a little bit more cautious, just sprinkle a couple of run lines. I mean, so Auburn's at -600 right now. I'd currently expect Austin Peay to get 3.5 or 4.5 on the run line at a fair price, and that is probably what I'd do with the Gubs here. The next series that we move to is also part of the 11.7 pick'em contest here. Southern Miss is -135 at Louisiana Tech at the Love Shack. The Bulldogs, they're +105 here in game one on Friday. This is a battle between two styles. A nice boxing matchup here between Southern Miss, who's a solid pitching team, but offensively, 749 team OPS, which is below average, also only averaging 5.7 runs per game. Louisiana Tech, 903 team OPS, 8.3 runs per game. Will, are you on the side of the pitching or the side of the hitting team here?
I typically lean towards the side of the pitching. I like USM in this series. They're not the same USM team that we've seen in previous years. I do like what they roll out on the mound. We're going to see Nico Mazza at some point this weekend. Not sure what day, but I think he's about as good as it comes in the Sun Belt as far as starters. I definitely like USM to take this series, although it's not an easy place to go. It would be one thing if this series was in Hattiesburg, but it's not.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pulling up currently to see if we've got any pitching announcements yet on Louisiana Tech's website. They're coming off a loss in the midweek to Xavier. Personally, I like Louisiana Tech on Friday for sure. They are going to be going with Reed Smith. And Louisiana Tech's pitching staff themselves have not been too bad. Going into that midweek game against Xavier, they were top 5 in the country in team ERA. I'm gonna go find that again real quick while I'm looking for this weekend's pitching matchups. So Reed Smith is going for Louisiana Tech on Friday, and Louisiana Tech's team ERA is 2.48, and that is currently 4th in the country still after that midweek loss to Xavier. I'm high on Louisiana Tech this year. I think I'm gonna take them to win this series in Ruston. Southern Miss is throwing Nico Mazza on Friday against Reed Smith. So Mazza 2-0 with a 1.96 ERA. Reed Smith, no decisions in his first 3 with a 4.15 ERA. Friday is, like I said, I think it's a nice spot for Louisiana Tech, who just suffered their first loss in the midweek. But I think I like them to win the series. I really do. That Friday matchup is probably the matchup that they have that Southern Miss, I would say they have the easy advantage in the starting pitching matchup. Saturday, it's Billy Oldham's, who's a senior. He's got, super regional experience from last season. He's going up against Luke Nichols, who's a junior. He's 2-0 with a 2.25 ERA this season. And then in game 3, Will Armstead, who also was on last year's super regional teams, going up against Turner Swistak, who's also 2-0 for Louisiana Tech with a 4.91 ERA. Armstead's got a 6.75. So personally, I'm on Louisiana Tech. I'm not going to bet it on Friday, but I do find it very interesting that they're the dog. Will, who do you have in the series?
This one has been back and forth for me. I really think it's like splitting hairs. It's going to be a 2-1 series in either direction. I think I'm going to lean Louisiana Tech with you, but I could see it going either way. This was one I didn't have a lot of great feel for. I like Nico Mazza a lot. But if Louisiana Tech takes that Friday game, I think they're going to take the series.
All righty. That is not my phone, by the way. That is my family's tablet over there. I don't know how to, or I know how to turn it off, but it's also across the room, and I don't feel like moving. The next series that we're going to talk about here is also an ACC opening weekend series for the regular season. Virginia hits the road. They go to Mark-Light Field to take on Miami. The Cavs are minus 135 against the Canes, plus 105. The Hoos, they have a 1067 team OPS. They're averaging just under 11 runs per game. Miami, Florida has a 998 team OPS, 9.42 runs per game. They took down one of the 3-game series against Florida. One of the 3 games there. I misspoke. And Virginia has flipped around the pitching staff here. The Friday starter they're rocking with is Blanco, and they're electing to start O'Connor on Saturday. Will, does that change your handicap at all here for the Friday game, and how about the series?
Not really, no. I know O'Connell has not been what we expected, at least not what I expected by any stretch of the imagination. He's been a little bit disappointing for a guy that I really thought was going to be the anchor of UVA this year.
Yeah, and he was solid as their midweek guy last year too.
Yeah, like I'm very surprised that he has struggled the way that he has. I still like UVA to take the series. I'm not high on Miami at all. And the one game that they took against Florida, I mean, it's a rivalry series, so it's a little bit different as far as how you want to perceive it.
Yeah.
I like UVA to take the series.
Real quick, the Friday starter for Virginia is Colin McKay, not Evan Blanco. Blanco's going Saturday. They've completely removed O'Connor from the weekend rotation.
I actually think that's going to benefit them this weekend. Miami does swing it well, especially in Coral Gables. I still think Virginia's offense is going to be too good for this series, and I think Virginia is going to handle this series pretty well. I'm probably going to look to target them tomorrow just because that line feels short to me. Minus 135 seems like really good value for a team I think is a lot better than Miami across the board.
Yeah, I would, I guess, push back on how I feel about Virginia as a team so far this season. But on Friday, I think this is the spot where I'm going to lock up Virginia here against Miami. Colin McKay, I just looked him up. He's made 2 starts, 3 appearances. He's got 11.1 innings under his belt. He's got a 0.79 ERA, 12 strikeouts, 5 walks, 3.43 Sierra. And he's going up against Gage Zeal, who I've been pretty much on record saying I don't like this guy's game much at all. I don't think he should be the Friday night starter in Miami's rotation either. I think Rafe Schlesinger has been outstanding so far this year. And he's their Saturday guy. That Saturday matchup is going to be outstanding between Evan Blanco and Schlesinger. But for Friday here, Colin McKay has been very, very good, and Zeal has not. So I like Virginia to win game 1 here on Friday on the road. Like you mentioned, short price. I'm going to lock this one up. I'm going to bet this one here. I'm going to look for the Hard Rock price when this thing opens here in Florida before I head back home. But yeah, I will be on the Hoos for this game, and I will take Virginia to win the series. I got burned by Miami. I took the Canes against my Gators. I really thought Florida had looked a little bit shaky so far this season, and losing to Miami wouldn't be beyond my expectations. But they took care of things in Game 3. I think this is another tight one. I don't think Virginia sweeps. I think it might come down to that game too, because Herrick Hernandez for Miami's looked solid as well, and he's their Game 3 starter. I think Virginia wins Game 1 and Game 2. So give me the Cavs in this series. Will, where are you going for the series?
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the Who's for the series, and I'm with you. Tomorrow is a 100% target spot for me to take Virginia.
There we go. Let's go. The next series, this is also one that's not currently on the board. Usually, again, I don't do this very often, but I made the show's lineup, in the afternoon today. We're going to talk a little bit on Northridge at Oregon State, Cal State Northridge, that is. This series being played at Goss Stadium. This is a 4-game series. They've already played one today. CSUN was in the game for about 4 innings, and then Oregon State opened up a can of whoop ass on them. The reason why I wanted to talk about it, and it might be blown up in my face, but I feel like Northridge is going to take one of these games against Oregon State. If not take one, they're going to cover the run line in 1 or 2, because Oregon State's battling a couple of injuries right now, mainly in the outfield. I think it's Casper, McDowell, and that's their starting center fielder, starting right fielder, and also Aiden May, their Friday night starter, is probably going to miss a start here this weekend again. It's just a precautionary thing. They are saying it's not a major injury for May, but he's probably going to miss bump day once again this week after he had the injury against Arkansas in week 2. I like Northridge. I think they have a lot of continuity from last year's team that was pretty dang good in the Big West. Personally, I think the Big West is way up this year. Northridge, 837 team OPS. They're averaging just over 8 runs a game, and the pitching staff brought back a ton. Oregon State, 1057 team OPS. They're a very good offense, averaging over 10 runs a game. That's where it gets a little bit dicey wanting to fade the Beavs. But I'm going to probably look to find a matchup somewhere this weekend to take Northridge. That's just me. Will, how say you?
Yeah, I think without Aiden May, there's probably a good opportunity to look for CSUN on a run line. I don't think they're going to take any of these games on the money line. I think Oregon State is going to take all of these games in the series. I think it's a sweep for them, even though they're banged up. But I think there could be a good spot for a potential run line. To me, this offense, even with missing pieces, is just too good.
For sure. Yeah. I think Oregon State wins this series easily. I just think the Matadors have a shot. We now move on. It's another 11.7 pick'em series here. UCF, this is 7:30 p.m. Eastern. They travel to Norman, Oklahoma after UCF just knocked off Florida in a midweek game. The Golden Knights are plus 130. They're playing Oklahoma again. I already said that, but Oklahoma's minus 166 at Dale Mitchell Park. UCF, 892 team OPS, averaging 8.4 runs a game. Pitching staff's been solid. Oklahoma has been Jekyll and Hyde so far this year. 947 team OPS, averaging 7.64 runs per game. And the pitching staff has just been a massive grab bag. I don't have much of a feel here for this series. I'm interested in what you think, Will. For Friday, I'm going to give the edge to Oklahoma, just off the fact that UCF's coming into Norman from Gainesville after a big midweek win. What's your opinion here?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I didn't have a great feel for this series. I think Oklahoma is going to be in a good position tomorrow. I'm going to lean the Sooners to take the series, but I really could see this one going either way.
We're experiencing another little delay between Will and I. We've only got 2 more series to go, so we're gonna
we're gonna
battle through it. as you can tell. There's a little bit of delay. We've been dealing with this for the entire day for some reason. I looked it up, and Oklahoma and UCF have not announced. Actually, I take that back. Oklahoma is going with Braden Davis, Brennan Girton, Jamie Hitt, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. UCF has TBA'd the entire weekend. So we move. I'm on Oklahoma for the 11.7 weekend pick 'em. We go to Texas Tech, also another Big 12 opening weekend regular season series. Texas minus 115, Texas Tech minus 115. This is being played in Lubbock at Rip Griffin Park. Awesome stadium name here. I'm going to take this pitching matchup as well, Will. So Texas, junior right-handed pitcher, LeBaron Johnson Jr., awesome name. 1-1 with a 2.25 ERA, 2.68 Sierra, 20 strikeouts, 7 walks in 16 innings pitched. He didn't have technically too bad of a start against LSU last weekend. LSU just ran up his pitch count early in that game. He was chased, I believe, after 3 1/3. Maybe it was 4 1/3. But it was early. And then LSU got to that Texas bullpen. Texas Tech, their starting rotation has not been tremendous. Kyle Robinson's been the best of the bunch on Friday. He's another junior right-hander, 2-1 with a 3.14 ERA. The FIP is a little bit up there, though, 4.94 with 20 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 14.1 innings. The weather in this one is supposed to be pretty gnarly, upwards of 15 miles an hour to left field. Texas, 959 team OPS, 808 runs per game, 8.08 runs per game. Texas Tech, averaging 13.5 runs per game. That's one of the best numbers in the country in the runs per game department with an 1110 team OPS. Personally, for Friday, I think it's a LeBaron Johnson Jr. bounce back spot. I'm going to take the Horns. I realize that there's some steam on Texas Tech right now. I'm going to wait that thing out and then jump on the Horns probably around game time-ish tomorrow. I don't think this thing moves any further than maybe a Texas minus 105. If it goes any further, I think that's a little bit disrespectful on a Horns offense that was live for most of the weekend last week. They had an 0-3 weekend. However, they were putting up runs in all three, and they just choked away leads. Texas Tech, on the other hand, though, I think they have a shot to win both Saturday and the Sunday games. Rivalry in state. The last time Texas Tech gets to say something about it against Texas here before the Longhorns joined the SEC. What is your opinion here?
I love the Red Raiders here. I just think
no delay offense, too, by the way.
Oh, perfect. Go. That's what we want to hear. Tomorrow, I actually am leaning the Red Raiders tomorrow. I do want to see what this line does because, like you mentioned, there's some steam on Texas Tech. It opened at Texas Tech being minus 105, Texas at minus 120. LeBaron Johnson is obviously one of the better pitchers in the Big 12. But Texas Tech's offense, man, is really good. And I think Texas is going to struggle all weekend to keep them off the boards. Damian Bravo has been one of the best hitters in college baseball. He leads Division I baseball in batting average. He's first or second in doubles as well. And then they bring back a lot of guys from last year that were huge producers like Gage Harrelson and Gavin Cash. I'm really high on this offense. I actually think Texas Tech has a really good chance to win the Big 12, and I think it's going to start this weekend with a series win against the Longhorns.
Awesome stuff. So Saturday, the pitching matchup is Mac Hoyer for Texas Tech against Cody Howard for Texas. Texas has bumped Charlie Hurley to the Sunday position, Sunday role against Jack Washburn for Texas Tech. This is going to be a Texas Tech series win, I believe. The Red Raiders just play well in Lubbock. I think Texas takes game 1 with LeBaron Johnson Jr., and then the Red Raiders win games 2 and game 3. Will, what's your opinion there for the series?
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the Red Raiders to take the series. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be very telling of how this Texas Tech offense is going to perform against top-tier talent. We've already seen them play some really good teams, but I'm really excited to see them perform. I mean, last year they were really, really good in Lubbock. It's a team that I really like targeting at home. And if there's wind blowing out as well, I think you're going to see a lot of slugging in this series out of the Red Raiders. I like them to take the series.
Yeah, and the Red Raiders love the long ball. Lastly, we're going to touch on the last 11.7 pick'em series here. It is South Alabama at Nebraska. The Jaguars are plus 145 in game 1 on Friday. Cornhuskers minus 190 at Haymarket Park. South Bama, they've been pretty good so far this year, and they won last week's series, which was also involved in the 11.7 pick'em contest. The Jags have an 822 team OPS. They're averaging 6.3 runs per game. Nebraska, 766 team OPS, 6.2 runs per game. Will, how did you divvy up the two teams here?
Yeah, I'm going to lean Nebraska here. They have been better than I anticipated, and I think it's going to continue at home. I think they need this series to start rolling into Big Ten play. This is a big one for them. I think there's definitely some value on South Alabama, though. I easily could see them taking one, if not maybe two in this series and taking the whole series, but I'm going to lean Nebraska off the bat.
Yeah, so interesting move here with the pitching rotations. I'm just pulling it up on my phone. Nebraska is electing to throw Brett Sears on Saturday. He's been the Friday night guy for most of the year, and he's been solid. He's got a 1.56 ERA. The Saturday guy for South Alabama is 2-0 with a 1.13 ERA. That's Cam Hill. But for the Friday game, it's Drew Christo against Carson Swilling. Both are solid. Christo with a 3.07 ERA, Swilling with a 3.17 ERA. Christo, I'm looking it up right now in the database. He has 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 14.2 innings. 487 Sierra for the Cornhuskers so far this year. And under the hood for not Cam Hill, he's Saturday. Carson Swilling for South Alabama. He has 20 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 14.2 innings, 250 Sierra. He's been solid. I was leaning Nebraska. I wanted to take Nebraska here for the series. I think they still come out on top with the bats in the friendly confines of Haymarket Park, but I'm not as confident in it as I once was because I'm stumped on the weekend rotation switch between Sears and Christo. Because if Sears was going on Friday, I think they had the edge on Friday night. But South Alabama is actually pretty enticing now at plus 145 with Swilling on the mound. I think he's the better of the two pitchers. That's a solid look. For the series, I'm going to stick with Nebraska, but for Friday, give me South Alabama here. Borderline, I'm looking to bet that. So, Will, for the series, who are you going to take here? I think there's a delay, or if anything, an audio issue.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think Nebraska is going to take the series. Now that I know that Sears isn't throwing on Friday, I think you nailed it. I think South Alabama might actually be live tomorrow, and that could be a really good target spot. But I still think you got to take the Cornhuskers to take the series.
Probably on my end, because I just heard everything you said about 15 seconds late. That is hilarious. All right, we're coming to the end of the show right now. Actually, we're gonna recap what we've locked up so far on the show. But this is the point of the show where I open up to Will and say, hey, have you done more work than I have on vacation? Did you look at the rest of the slate? Do you have any other bets that you like?
Yeah, there's one game that I am looking to take tomorrow, and it's going to be UCLA at Cal. I saw the line was at UCLA minus 125, Cal at minus 105. We're going to see Trey Newman on the mound for Cal. He struggled his last time out, but he was great against K-State in their weekend opener. And I really like Cal. I think UCLA's offense isn't quite there yet. And while I think that the pitching staff is more balanced for the Bruins, I think Cal is going to be a really good target tomorrow.
All right, so I just finished hearing what you said. This is going to be super interesting to me when we go back and find out which side has the lag affected more when we see the final product on YouTube / the audio podcast version. I like the Cal look, though. They're a team that has grown on me for sure, and I think they win the series for sure this weekend. So my lock, we're going to do a lock dog, and then we're going to make a little bit of a podcast parlay. I'm going to give out my survivor for 11.7 pick'em contest. You're going to do the same. Colby so far has gotten along through the survivors, so hopefully no pressure, but we're looking for that to keep up on that end. Personally, for me, I am going to elect to go with Louisiana Tech for my survivor. This weekend was really sketchy for me. I have not fallen in love with any of the series, just like I didn't really last week either. Last week, I actually gave out Oregon, who lost, but they weren't part of the survivor portion of it, which was really weird. So I tweeted it out what was going on. I took UCF. They won game 3 against South Florida there. For my locks of the show, I locked up I took Duke plus money against Wake Forest. I locked I think I went with Louisiana Tech. I should have wrote these down who I locked up. I went with Duke. I went with Louisiana Tech. I went with Virginia. I like those 3 a lot. And then flipping it over, I like Texas against Texas Tech on Friday. And yeah, those are the 4 that I love the most. My favorite dog of the bunch is Duke. I think the price is disrespectful with Santucci on the mound. And then we'll collab on a parlay real quick. Will, your lock, your dog, recap the bets that you gave out on the show, and a survivor of the 6 11.7 contests that you like the most.
Yeah, so some locks. I'm going to be taking BC in game 1 over NC State, which is on Saturday, but still a lock. I'll be taking Duke as a dog against Wake Forest with Santucci on the bump. Virginia over Miami at minus 135. I love that play. And I will be taking Cal against UCLA. I think that's a great spot for the Golden Bears. I'm leaning Texas Tech. I haven't officially decided where I'm going to lie with that, but as of right now, I'm leaning Texas Tech. But those are my locks.
Good stuff. So do you have a survivor for those 6 11.7 contest series? So they are South Alabama at Nebraska, Texas at Texas Tech, UCF at Oklahoma, Troy at Indiana, Duke at Wake Forest, and Southern Miss at Louisiana Tech. Your favorite pick to win a weekend series there?
I'm going to go with the Red Raiders.
Ooh, I like it. They give the Longhorns one last kiss goodbye out of the Big 12. All right, let's build a little bit of a parlay and let's get out of here. I'm gonna pull up DraftKings currently. No, I cannot place it in Florida. However, we are going to build it on DraftKings because they're the ones that opened all the lines. They're usually first to the market here. I am going to initially throw out the Tar Heels minus 210 against Pitt's closer, aka Friday night starter, and Ryan Andrade. I'm not buying the Pitt Panthers at all here in their magical start to the season. Will, your leg of the parlay, go ahead.
I am gonna go with. I think I gotta go with the Wahoos. I think I gotta go Virginia as a parlay piece. I know it's a shorter line for a parlay. It's not typically what I would throw in there, but I really like them this weekend. I think they're gonna clean up Miami.
And I specifically like the fade on Gage Zeal. All right, so North Carolina minus 210, Virginia minus 135. It's an opening weekend ACC parlay, plus 156 on those two legs. Will, thank you very much for joining me on this weekend's preview for college baseball and March 8th picks episode. Go ahead and plug whatever you want. I know you guys are doing great things over at Overdue Sports. You're writing articles, doing shows. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I love any opportunity to talk some college ball. Go give us a follow at Overdue Sports on Twitter, and check out our YouTube, Overdue Sports. We're starting to roll out a bunch of content there across all sports. And our website, overduesports.com. Simple as that. We got betting picks for all sports, and I'm covering a lot of college baseball over there, so come tune in.
Awesome stuff. And shout out to the 40 that are watching live on YouTube currently, and also the fucked up Twitter algorithm that we've got going on right now. Currently, we've added up around 240 live viewers throughout the duration of the show. I don't know how many of you are currently watching live, unfortunately, because that's just the world we live in with Elon currently adjusting Twitter/X every single day. Brian Opoka in the YouTube chat, real quick before we get out of here. He goes, Noah, I've been listening to the college baseball and basketball experience for about 3 months now, and I have to ask what the cocktail napkin is. Thank you so much. Basically, it's just a system that I've built to create an edge against KenPom, because KenPom opens lines for odds makers consistently in college basketball. And it helps me establish an edge. And when I have 2 points or more of an edge, I say that's a possession of value. And I usually jump on that side if I like the team. Cannabis Capper in the YouTube chat, he says, great show, great info. Thank you guys. Tommy in Twitter shows that it's not all bots. He says, I'm tuned in. Shout out to all that watched. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been the College Baseball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. Adios, amigo.